her house. She lives by herself in this house for who knows how long. Obviously, her husband had passed, and she's been missing for like days. And nearby neighbors end up calling the daughter, letting her know, your mother's been missing. We haven't really seen her. We stopped by the house. We didn't get any answer. Like, we don't know what's going on. So the mother, her daughter, and then the mother's daughter. So the mother is called Kay, and her daughter is called Sammy. Kay and Sam, right? So, but it's weird. You can already tell that the mother and the daughter have this strange relationship, because the daughter won't call her mother mom. She'll call her Kay. So you're like, okay, weird. But the granddaughter's all super concerned, and, you know, just like kind of playing the role that she doesn't know everything that's going on, because she doesn't know how it was when she grew up with grandma. All she knows is that grandma needs help and she's all alone, and she should probably go out there and help her. Mom knows, like, you know, she's all by herself. She forgets things, and this is kind of scary. So who knows where she's at, but we need to find her. And so they form a search party, and they're looking around the woods and everything. And the mother, Kay, keeps on having these recurring dreams of her walking through the forest, and there's this cabin in the forest, and apparently her grandfather, so her mother that is missing, grandma that's missing, grandma's father, had a cabin out in the woods, and he was like totally isolated and ended up not being well taken care of and dying there. And she keeps on having these really weird nightmares of her walking through the cabin and just like mold being everywhere and like a decaying body, and very disturbing. And so they're searching for the grandma, and days have gone by. They do a police search and everything, and it shows the scene of them walking through the forest and trying to find her, while they're there at the house, trying to keep everything clean and just organized. And it's just weird, you know, it's weird being there without grandma. And then out of nowhere, they hear these weird sounds, and grandma's in the kitchen making herself some tea. And you can tell that she's been in dirt, because she's barefoot, her limbs are all dirty, and she just looks disheveled. So they're trying to see, like, what happened, but she's not saying anything. Like, nothing happened. I guess I suppose I went out. She has this huge bruise on her chest, and it's like black, just like black. And it's just super concerning and weird, and it almost is depicting signs of like dementia, being like senile and all of that, but her just not remembering stuff, and like talking to herself in corners of the room, and it's like being like, you're not my daughter, like accusing like her daughter and granddaughter of them not being who they really are. And the granddaughter offers to like live there and help her, but grandma kind of like goes a little crazy on her and like attacks her in some sort of way, because there's a moment where they have a bonding moment, and grandma gives Sam this ring, and then there's a moment later where grandma sees that Sam has the ring on, and is like, where did you get that? Did you steal that from me? And like attacks her. So it's just this weird feeling of like, wow, she actually does need the help that no one has noticed. Like, she's not okay by herself. And it's they put it in a setting where it looks very threatening and ominous, even though those things happen a lot. You see a lot of dementia patients being very violent at times, but how they depicted it in the movie is just like super, gives you like the creeps. And so mom, Kay, is trying to look at places to like retirement homes for grandma, and the granddaughter, Sam, is like reluctant to it. Like, why would you want to shut her away? But trying to like figure out what happened to where like she was missing for a few days, and they have a neighbor that's nearby, and the neighbor has, it's, family friends, and he has a son that's like mental disabilities, autism, a little like slow, like he's not all there, but he has to live with his parents his whole life, and he would always go and see the grandma all the time and hang and spend time with her. And there was a time when he went over and they played hide and seek, and she locked him in a closet and totally forgot about it, and like he was locked in there for hours. And the father came by asking, like, have you seen my son? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. While you can hear in the background, like, his son, like, screaming for help and, like, clawing at the door. And so Sam, the granddaughter, decides to go exploring around the house after hearing that story, because she already has been living there for a few days and just trying to get some clarity about it, because it seemed that she was super biased, like, against her mom, and didn't have a good relationship with her mom, and thinking like grandma needs help, like you just don't want to deal with her. But then like having moments with grandma and seeing how not okay she is, and going to the closet where the neighbor's boy was locked in there, and you can like see the scratch marks and everything, and it looks like it's a storage closet. And she goes in there, and it's weird. It's like she's walking through this different hallway of a house, but it's just like, it didn't, when you first saw it in the beginning of the movie where she's getting just like extra blankets because she's staying there, like storage room, it just seemed like it was like a little closet. No, she's venturing through it like it's like a hallway and everything. And the further she goes, like the lights get dimmer, and the walls look like there's like speckled mold all over it, and it's like very ominous. And she's like getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the hallway, and finally she's like, fuck this, and decides to turn around. She turns around, guess what? It's the same thing. It's like she took a loop. So she's trapped in this like other dimension of the house, even though it's the same house, but it's not the house. And somehow like these nightmares that the mom, Kay, is having of her grandfather dying in this cabin in the woods, there was a window that was on the wall, like a glass window, like this mosaic of like a wilderness trees, and it was a circle, and it was like on the front door. And after the cabin got torn down, it was inherited into the house that her mother, the grandma, lives in. So it's somewhat kind of going back to that. And so while Sam is lost in this other dimension, walking into this unknown like hallway of just decay and, oh my god, unknown and gloomy and just uttermost fear, the mom's Kay is trying to like figure out what her mother is doing, and like sees, like while she's cleaning up in the house, like sees her mother like wander off into the forest, and she follows her, and she has like a photo album in her hand, just like cradling it, and she sees that she's like stuffing like photographs in her mouth and like trying to eat these photographs like compulsively, like not even just like tearing a little piece off and chewing it, just like stuffing it in her mouth, and her being like, Mom, what are you doing? And she's just saying like, she looks confused and doesn't know what she's doing and tries to run away, and then she finds her like digging a hole in the ground and wanting to hide that photo album into the earth. And she's watching her mother do this and just thinking like, there's no way that I can just shut my mother in this retirement home. And she's like kind of voicing it like, I'm sorry that I haven't been there for you, but I'm gonna be there. Do you want to come home with me? Like, come and move in with me? And grandma is just sitting there and just like, yeah, like nodding her head and like crying and just like, I don't know what to do anymore. And she's just like, I just want to go home. Ever since your father passed away, it's been cold in there. And she's like, I just don't know, where is everyone? Where is everyone? And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, they're in the photo albums that you just like buried. They're right here. And the grandma's just like crying and being like, where is everyone? And then she gets like serious and like, where is everyone? like confused, like not recognizing her daughter in front of her. And so they get back to the house and she wants to give her a bath because she's dirty and everything. And Sam is still wandering into that abyss of this weird dimension of the house and like freaking out because it's like creaks and like the rooms get like tighter and tighter and like she has nowhere to turn, and it's just like this is the only way that she could go. And Kay is taking care of Grandma and just making sure everything's okay, but like there's these weird noises going around and trying to like figure out where her daughter is, which is Samantha, that's lost in the other dimension. And she's like, well, all of her stuff is here. I wonder where she is. And she goes to the bathroom door and the door is locked. And she's like, Mom, why is the door locked? And she stands up on a stool and there's like at the top part of the door a glass where you could like look through it. And where she looks through, she's looking through and can see like the mirror, and it's reflecting her mother in the bathtub. And she's like has a knife and is like stabbing herself in the chest. And it has like this that's the huge bruise that she had on her chest, and it looks like it's growing and growing because there's a scene of the grandma sitting in like the bathtub all like hurdle, and it looks like this stain is like growing on her chest, and it's super creepy. And she sees that her mother's doing that, and she's trying to like break into the door and everything, and she finally is able to get in there, and her mother has the knife in her hand, be like, get away from me, like you're not my daughter, you're not her, and like very threatening, almost like it's scary. Like this is someone that's super confused and like you don't recognize who they are. This is supposed to be your mother, and she is going crazy and has this huge stain and naked and like totally like frail person and like attacking you with a knife. And Kay, mom, daughter of Grandma, is running away from her, like screaming because she has a knife and going all crazy, while Samantha is in the other dimension and like ends up getting to this place where she can like finds a pipe and starts hitting a wall because it looks like there's water damage and it's not supported that well, and it shows from the other side that it looks like it's the wall that's the living room where the fireplace is to the regular house. So I don't even know how she got in there. And so she's trying to beat it, and then she can hear her mother screaming like, no, like get away from me, because Grandma is attacking her and goes after her, and they meet up somehow. And she's like, come on, I know a way we can get out of here. And they're
the grandma and
Mom and
Sam
and granddaughter is running away from grandmom because grandma is crazy and like decaying and can't recognize anyone anymore and like attacking people with knives. So like she tries to help her continue to like get that hole out of to the living room above the fireplace, and she gets Samantha, the granddaughter, through the hole and like, just go. And then Kay, the daughter, is trying to get through the hole, and she's like, pull me, just pull me. And then of course, while Samantha's trying to pull her mother out, you see her being like pulled back in, and they're like, no, and like trying to pull her out. And when they're running away, before they get actually through the hole, it shows like a scene of like Grandma like going after them, and it being like super creepy, and just like arms, like creepy arms, like coming through the hallway, and her body just like twisting. And I'm like sitting there on the couch while Sam's passed out on Gordy snoring, and I'm just like, no, oh God, no. And I'm just like freaking out, and it shows finally Mother gets pulled out, but Grandma is hanging on to her ankles and pulls her out and is trying to like attack them, and she hits her over the head with the lead pipe that they were able to get through the wall, and like beat her, and she looks so like different, like decay all over her. She does not look the same way that she did. Like it just looks like whatever that bruise, whatever you want to call it, was on her chest, it's just spreading, and she just doesn't look like herself anymore. And the daughter's like, come on, let's go. And Grandma's just laying on the floor, just like wheezing on the ground. And they're walking, and then Mother Kay is looking at her mother on the ground and just like looking at her, just like, what's going on? Come on, just come with me. And she's like, I can't leave her. So she locks her daughter out from the house, and you see her just like scoop up her mother and bring her to the bedroom. And her mother is like obviously dying because she's like been beaten because she was trying to kill her daughter and granddaughter, and it was all in self-defense. But her daughter is holding her like a child, bringing her up to the room, and like sits her on the bed, and you can just hear like this wheezing, like heavy breathing, like just not together, just broken breathing. And she's just caressing her mother and like rubbing her and just like giving her kisses on her head and running her hands over her mother's body. And there's these weird areas on her body where it looks like the flesh is just like coming off. And,
like decayed.
Yeah, and she starts like peeling off the skin to where it looks like it's just like showing this layer of just like black, gray, like that's what she's supposed to be. So you see her like peeling off layer, like this weird layer of her mother's flesh, and she's like caressing her mother's head, and her hair is just like falling out while she's caressing her head, and then she starts like peeling back that, and it's just showing that black gray like part of this carcass underneath, to where finally she like takes everything off, and it's just her mother that's just like this weird looking corpse, and like is like kissing her on the forehead and like hugging her, and like it's finally like as if, because the reason why she didn't walk away when her mother was on the ground after she got attacked, she said, "Kay, is that you?" And she knew like her mother's back, so that's why she like took this caring role and like doing all this like disturbing, like peeling her skin back and just weird. And she just lays her mother down on the bed and like is holding her, and you can tell that like she's smiling at her as that like carcass or whatever you want to call it before she like lays her down. And you see like before she lays her down, let her granddaughter Samantha finds a way in, and is watching her mother do this to her grandma, like peeling her, and seeing this entity like just like totally disturbed by it, but then again like transfixed by the fact of how calm her mother is, and her mother laying down grandma and caressing grandma on the bed, and she lays right behind her mom, and it's just kind of like okay, like trying to get with it and like caressing her mother. And she ends up putting her like rubbing her mother's back and like looking at the back of her shirt, and sees that there's this mark on her skin, and it looks like it's this black mark, like a decay mark on her skin. And then it goes to the scene of like that window, that glass mosaic window that was from the log cabin that was incorporated in the house that they moved, and just like mold going over it, and that's how it ended.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
So it's just repeating. It's gonna repeat. It's gonna repeat. But they don't.
But like the whole time, the granddaughter Samantha's like walking down the hallway and just being like with her like cell phone light. I'm like, no. And you hear all these like creeping noises, and like there's all these like sticky notes that grandma put around the house to make sure she wouldn't like forget, like it's in here, you have to get away, don't let it come out, like weird little creepy notes, and you're just like, no. Every time you like look at a note, it just